Okay, how's that? Bit of a shock to the system for some. So that was an hour and a half. Now, I only do that with a more professional athlete. I wouldn't be doing an hour and a half for the average person. Not that it wouldn't benefit from, but a lot of people are pretty messed up, and 10 minutes will put them in a state of shock. So don't get the wrong idea. That was, I went to cut it at 60, but some of the more advanced people in our group enjoy it so much that I gave them that more of the standard approach. So just how much you stretch really depends on how messed you up you are. If you came in neutral, all clean, you might not have to stretch as much, but that's not many people. And then with your training would require you to stretch more, because the more you train, the more you have to stretch. That ratio of 1 to 1 that I recommend. Any questions on?
Do you have those stretches in a sequence, or can you do random?
There's a time and a place for everything in life. So there is a reason for the sequence, but like any variable, you can move the variables around. Yeah. So that was just a generic approach that is commonly used, but it's not a requirement per se.
Do you recommend certain regulations for each positions you hold?
Your breathing? Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into breathing at this level. There's a lot to breathing, but most of you don't even stretch, so it's a pretty mute point. It's like, can I have the Ferrari now? So no, keep driving that Hyundai for a few more weeks.
So are most of us trainers in here? We actually have just 1 hour with our clients.
Yes.
So I know I had some coaches were like, I have the foam roll and stretch for an hour before we train for an hour. I don't know what we expect from a general population who's 200 pounds versus an Olympic athlete who's willing to do whatever it takes for however long it takes. So what would you recommend for us? We've got an hour and try to encourage everybody, of course, to stretch and all of that. But
So first of all, I'd encourage you to ask. I'm not rejecting the hour, but I'm to understand where did the hour concept come from. Like, where did this magical 60 minutes come from? Is it, was there some sort of law written that best training sessions are 60 minutes long, or where do you reckon the 60 minutes has come from?
Typically, it's as far as pricing with clients.
It's a charging block, isn't it?
it's also a window of time that person has.
Yeah. So it's like going to a therapist.
2 hours we charge more, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I want you to charge more. The more time, the more you should charge. But what I'm saying is just be conscious that the concept of 60 minutes is sort of a fabricated one. Have you ever been in a session where the physical therapist or any other sort of therapist and all of a sudden the time was up and they said, okay, time's up, there's the door? Like you think, is this really the best for me? So first of all, I'm not suggesting you're going to change the world, but I personally don't operate on time, which makes it tough to book. I get it, but I just, if I think it'll be 2.5 hours, I'll allow 3. So it's not easy for you at this stage. So I just wanted to clarify that before. Now coming back to it, sorry.
What I do with my clients is I tell them, I charge them by session now. They have 60 minutes. It could be 45 minutes. It could be 65 minutes. There's no exactly. I always something. But 60 minutes is a ridiculous number. I've always put that in the beginning. So I charge them by session, so that way, and also,
Oh, not a money thing, like the time.
No,
You
that's what I
want to
mean.
go
That's
in
what I
there
mean.
and drop 100 pounds, and you're like, we got to stretch. Okay, you're going in that direction?
No, I tell them that too. I said, look, we'll spend the time we need to spend for that particular session. It could be, 45 minutes or 60 minutes. But
So-
I'm sure, like you, most of your clients, they're
But
busy.
I'm going to answer your question. So 4 physical qualities: speed, strength, endurance, and flexibility. How many of them are relevant to your clients? Speed, strength, endurance, and flexibility.
What they think is relevant?
No,
I think is
what do you
relevant
think?
to them?
What do you think is relevant?
I'd say flexibility,
Yep. What else?
then strength. Well, what was the other one? Speed and all that?
And speed and endurance. So the next.
Endurance, speed lab.
Okay. From my opinion, speed's pretty irrelevant to most general population. Now I know it's really trendy to get them running up and down here, but it's like scary to watch. Not really. The average general person shouldn't be sprinting for a few until they clean their bodies up and, the stuff anyway. So we're down to 3 qualities tops. So if you decided there were 3 qualities, strength, endurance and flexibility, I'm not saying what order yet, then you got how many minutes if you divide it evenly? 20 minutes. Now I'm not suggesting that you should, but do 20 minutes each, but just if you want to have a balanced program, someone coming in and stretching for 10 minutes and then strength training for 50, where's the balance in that? It's not balanced. If you look at an average person, and they probably need more stretching than they do strengthening. So you can break your 60 minutes up anyhow you want. But it should be guided by what, the 2 of you think you need. It's not just about you, it's what they think as well. But as long as it's within your parameters. If they said, no, I don't believe I should do it, but you really believe they should and you couldn't resolve your differences, then you should part company. I won't work with people unless it's within my value set. Does that make sense? Johnny.
So do your clients work out with weights every single day?
No.
Okay, how many days a week?
3.
Okay, so
I get
they
them
work out
all.
with weights 3 times. So on their days off, which would be 4 days a week, if they have an hour and they stretch for an hour, they can make up the time then easily.
Again, if they're not going to do that, then you've kind of got to find out what they're going to do and then get it done.
Say the realistic, the little population that I
Yes.
encounter will commit to about 4 days a week of exercise
Yeah.
for 1 hour.
And I think it's ridiculous to expect anything more. That's good.
Yeah, I'm not going to get any more. I don't know. There are not trainers out there that are like, oh, I need to fix this, I want to build that.
Even if you've got 3 1 hours, I think that's great. You've just got to keep it in context of what is needed. Because what's happening is most people in their training programs are making the client worse. They're getting paid to make them healthier. They're actually making them worse. And if you want to take a picture of them and at the start and take a picture of them, I'm not talking about a picture of a body fat. I'm talking about a picture of their musculoskeletal system. That'll tell you what's really going on.
You mentioned body fat too.
I didn't mention that. Oh, just as someone who's overweight. Okay.
Yeah, someone who's overweight. So what's going to strip the body fat off more, working out or the nutrition?
Diet. But
True.
convincing them of that, so that when yeah.
Well, that's a slow educational process. And what we teach is that if you're training to change your body composition, you're compromising your training. You can tweak it a little bit, but if you'll completely change it, like if someone's going there and running to lower their body fat, they're really compromising their body with something that, even if it was only a 50-50 approach of nutrition and exercise, it's going to be far better off than trying to get it all from exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So
Those stretchers are pretty advanced.
they were, weren't they?
Are they doable for the general population?
Well, I wouldn't be doing the one. I wouldn't be getting the position. This was a pretty good group. Everyone's got some sort of background. You wouldn't be expecting them. You'd have to start with something simpler.
Okay.
But I introduced the concept of exercise continuums back there in the 90s, and obviously you wouldn't know that because of the copying that's been done in this country, but you can place every stretch on a continuum of easy to more difficult. And I didn't give you general population necessarily.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So John, show me a calf stretch. Like for a common, if you do a general pop, just that. I mean, that's a calf stretch for some people. That's your simple start.
That's what I'm thinking. The general population
Yeah,
would start doing.
yeah.
So if they did like for 5 minutes.
In total, stretch.
Yeah.
That'd be good today.
That would just be a good start.
Yeah, and then in a few weeks' time, we'll get them on to 7, and then we get them to 10, then we get them to 12. Then they'll say, "Geez, this is feeling good.
Yeah.
I want to do more of this stuff."
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not about convincing or dogma. It's about, let's start there and enjoy that. Why don't we try a bit more today?
Okay. But it's just like any other exercise. Flexibility is an extremely important part of the exercise.
The most important.
The most.
From my paradigm.
So from your paradigm, so if you focus on this as a starting point, it's even better than putting on weight strength training. Is that what you're saying?
Much better for everything, because once you have flexibility around a joint, you get faster hypertrophy,
Okay.
you get faster strength,
Okay.
you get better endurance, you get better speed, and the body is just better.
This is what most people don't understand. But this is what most people don't understand. They don't understand that. What they want is they want the muscle. They want the strength first. And what they don't get is that this actually is the foundation to the strength.
That's correct.
So if you convince them that this is the foundation, and they'll slowly understand it, and they'll
So
slowly experience
where's
it.
that coming from? You know, it's coming from mainstream marketing. If I pick up a Men's Health magazine, how many articles or pictures of people being glorified in their stretch position I'm going to see?
Not at all.
Exactly.
Not
So all we see is low body fat and muscle.
That's
So
what they
just bang, bang,
want.
bang. That's
Yeah.
right. If you have a look at the physiques of the Men's Health models, they are the most fucked up physiques in the world. They are an absolute disgrace. They are the worst.
But it looks so good.
So does Candy. So does Candy.
All showing those
No, I understand. I understand. This is what most people don't get. I mean, even people who are in the fitness industry.
And that's the next point. It's not just mainstream media. It's the majority of people in the fitness industry caught up in that paradigm.
Yes. This is what they don't
The
get.
biggest tragedy is that the young athletes growing,
Oh, it's even worse. They catch up that.
If I'm not going to be a good athlete if I don't look like
Look
that.
like that. Yes. It's on the
It's awful. Yeah.
So it's not really, it's like, doing this makes me mentally healthy.
Exactly.
I feel better. I'm able to deal with stress.
Exactly.
I can lift an incredible amount of weight, but day in and day out, that really is very, very deteriorating to my body. This, when I'm out of it, I feel extremely different. Extremely. And you can't really teach that to somebody. They have to do it, and they have to extend it
Exactly.
longer and longer.
Exactly.
But they don't understand that it's the integral step.
So we're in a marketing world. At the moment, or not at the moment, but yoga has been rising in its prominence continuously. Now, I think yoga brings to the market a lot of good things, but I don't agree with the way yoga's done. I don't think it offers everything that's possible. I'm obviously a bit biased to how I would stress someone. So if I was to enter trademark a name, enter a marketing campaign, then suddenly people want to do it. People only want to do what's marketed.
Tom figured out about yoga pretty quickly.
Yeah, I did yoga for 6 years. Yoga is an exercise. It's a form of exercise. I didn't see it as a form of exercise. I thought it was mentally releasing for me. But I didn't realize that it was really just exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And I was putting myself through stress.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So this does not put me through stress. This actually releases stress.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing what people do understand about working out and what they don't understand about working out.
So he asked me a question about breathing, and I said I'm not going there because I've actually done a fair bit of reflection and collating my theories on this subject, which are too advanced for this discussion. Understanding and teaching the benefits of the way I approach stretching, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it that will probably be realised in about 50 to 100 years' time. I'm expecting what I do to be hitting mainstream about 100 years after I die, sort of stuff. There is so much physiologically and emotionally and psychologically to how I approach this aspect of training. It has transfer to the health of people far more than any other form of training that's offered as an equivalent this day, from yoga through to Tai Chi. This is more beneficial than those, in a holistic sense to the body.
You'd be kicked out of this country.
Yeah, exactly. But in 100 years' time, I'm going to give you an example. There's a man out of America called Weston Price, and he wrote some books. Weston Price came up with a theory that if people ate refined sugar and flour, it changed the structure of their bones and degenerated their subsequent generations. So he looked at them in the indigenous population eating their natural foods, and they were healthy. Their bones were good, their teeth were good. He came back 10 years later or so and looked at the same people after they'd been exposed to white man's food and saw the degeneration. Then he came back and looked at their children and saw it even further. Now, that was done in the 1920s and 1930s. Now, when do you think the concept of refined flour and sugar really peaked or hit a significant mass or tipping point? What year, roughly, in your country, did enough people realise the downsides of refined sugar and refined flour?
The 90s.
At the earliest.
Earlier than that?
2000s.
Later.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably about 2000.
Tipping point. Not the fringe dwellers, more towards the mass awareness.
I would say the Atkins diet, right around
Yeah,
2002, 2000.
I'd say the early 2000s, yeah. And even now, it's really only becoming mainstream. We're talking all like 80 years. We're talking about a generational cycle. Now that book was available, that information was available then, but no one was going to release it because the commercial interests of the food manufacturing companies.
But that book wasn't popular in Idaho, that's for sure.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So people aren't going to rush to embrace what I teach. It's just counter to what I don't believe in half the equipment in this room. Like, how popular am I going to be? Like, if I owned this place, I'd be getting the tip truck out here real quick, and I'd be saying, throw that.
Well, Tom, you've seen the garage.
That's my idea of training.
So this is pretty much all you need with a couple of weights. Just a mat and with a couple of weights.
I've trained Olympic medalists with like the size of this, from here to here to here to here, and one bench, one bar, and a few plates. So until someone makes it popular, no one's going to, because there's just too much of a paradigm shift. When an electric car was produced, what happened to the electric car? They took it into the Nevada desert and crushed it. Why?
It's obsolete.
No, this is in the 70s. Because they weren't ready they weren't economically set up to take money from that approach to locomotion.
They weren't making money.
They weren't ready to make their money. So they had the oil and fuel industry all set up, and if that was just destroyed, it would have bankrupted them. They had to wait until they were ready to exploit, have the infrastructure in place to exploit that. They had to transition from an oil-based world to a solar energy-based world or a natural energy-based world. So it's not
40 minutes outside of my house. 40-minute drive. That Tesla factory the gigafactory is being built.
so it's not about what's best for you. The masses only do what the commercial interests are ready for them to do. Make sense? Now, prior to the functional training movement, and that's a story in itself, I'd be a manufacturer of big machines. Then all of a sudden, people didn't want to buy a leg extension or a leg curl. So then what did I be? I'd be a distributor of small toys. See these things here? I know people who suddenly business boomed when they realized they could sell the small toys. That's why the functional training movement existed, because the people who realized how to commercially exploit the sale of small equipment drove that machine. They ran around the country doing seminars on functional training, because the seminars were funded by the people who sold that. So in your own training, just do what's best for your body, because if you look to the masses, they're just getting caught up in what the commerce wants them to do and know.
Yeah, but how can you convince them that that's not important?
Why would you want to convince them?
Because they're wasting their time doing things that
But
are
what-
not beneficial for
You
them.
can't care more than me. That's a losing battle.
So the beauty of humans is choice, and I actually relish people who take a different choice, because they become my control group in my study. I like to see, like, I've got a theory, if they do this, this will happen, and I like to see whether it's confirmed or not. They're being my guinea pigs. They are taking that trial drug that people normally sign consent that they won't sue over.
So in other words, you just do what is right, and then you hope that they will follow.
Not a hope. Just do what's right.
If they follow.
They'll get results, they'll tell their friends.
Well, what happened with you, Tom? You're spending 6 hours a week, you're doing yoga 3 hours, you're lifting 2 hours every day, not taking weeks off. How come you stopped all that?
I had an ounce of skepticism as to what I was doing. I was always thinking about whether what I was doing was beneficial. I had an ounce of realization, knowing that this cannot be the best thing I can do.
Based on what?
Based on my instinct. Like, there must be a better way. But there's like 2% of the people think this way.
Yes.
2% of the people
Yes.
think or question whether
Yes.
they do what they do.
And that applies in all industries, in all walks of life, and always has.
So you're saying it's pointless to...
Pointless.
It's pointless. Okay.
When you walk down the street and you see someone drinking a can of soda or something like that, or a little kid drinking a can of soda, what do you think?
It's pointless?
No, you think no. What do you think? Is it good for them?
No.
Do you think that's terrible?
Not.
You're watching them sip a little bit more diabetes.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's what you think,
So what do you got to do? Run around the hands, slapping all the kids drinking? So like slap it out of their hands?
Okay.
But no, everyone can run their own crusade. But I've never been that. My focus is on developing the best way to train. Simple as that. It's of no interest to me whether people follow it or not. It's of no interest to me whether it's liked or not. Because all that matters is that the people that I've taken responsibility for, I've given the best opportunity to fulfill their potential. That's all that matters.
How do you deal with the criticisms?
I'm used to it.
You're used to it.
I'm used to it.
You're used to it. Okay.
Yeah. Listen, this is pretty common saying. If you're not pissing people off, you're not fulfilling your own potential.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
I actually relish that because it's good feedback that I'm on track.
Okay.
And I've seen it so many times in so many ways. The whole functional movement program was developed out of my method, so to speak, and the people who reacted the most were the people who were most threatened by it, and then they turned around and implemented it. So I've been criticised quite extensively by so many people around the world. I joke, people get concerned by what people call you,
Right.
your names. Like, when the kids don't know what they call me.
Right.
I've had people in my local area go into their shop and they've called me, like, one fellow called me Brad for about 10 years, and my kids say, Dad, why don't you straighten him out? Like, Brad. And I say, I don't care what people call me. It doesn't matter. It's how they treat you that matters. So words are meaningless.
Oh, that's
How many people have said negative shit about you, have said negative shit about what you're doing, have said negative shit about me?
A lot. I'm just wondering, why is this such a foreign concept?
Because it's change. It's change.
You can't sell that diet.
But it's so simple and it's so effective. Why argue with something that works?
Because there's commercial interests. There's commercial interests and egos. One of the reasons I believe that stretching was discouraged from the mid-90s onwards is that people who wanted to control information and equipment couldn't stretch, didn't know what to do, so we've got to stop this until we work it out. Now, you've got sleep, eat and train. They're the three things that change you, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
how many articles have you read in men's health lately about how to sleep?
Not many.
How powerful is sleep?
It's extremely powerful. It changes your hormones and it changes your
Say no more.
muscles.
But there's not that much you can sell about sleep, is there? I mean, there's a
No.
bed, there's maybe a bit of melatonin, a darker curtain. There's not much. What about this mat? Stretching. One of the main reasons that stretching not being accepted because I haven't worked out how to create equipment from it. If all I need to stretch, I don't even need a mat. I can just go on the ground. I can go on the grass. At most, I'd get a towel. I need a towel and I need a towel, to stretch my heart. I don't need any equipment to stretch. How much would they endorse that as a rising trend? Not a hope in hell.
There's nothing to sell.
Nothing to sell. No trend will be promoted in a corporatocracy or a capitalistic environment if it doesn't make money for commerce. And I'm not anti-capitalistic, don't get me wrong.
So basically you're saying that we can just go and do this with clients, and if they resist against it, you just try not to convince them?
No, just get new clients. This is how
Just take their pulse.
this is how snowballs work. This is how avalanches begin.
What if you can't afford to do that?
How does an avalanche begin?
With a little pebble?
One thing moves, and then it picks up a few others, and then that picks up a few others. You need one breakthrough with somebody.
So you're counting on that one breakthrough,
Yeah.
that one sense of skepticism, that one person who's walking around just...
One breakthrough.
But Tom, you said it yourself. The methods are so effective that it's going to happen once that person.
Well, I'm just, I mean, I'm
Just
just...
go, I think small doses, like introduce stretching in the way you just...
Yeah,
discovered.
progressive exposure. You don't just.
All or not, everything you're
Yeah,
doing.
don't throw everything out of that straight away.
Discover this, let's try more of
Yeah.
it.
So it's just a gradual introduction to
For
what they
yourself,
can
even.
handle.
With you.
I'll give you an example.
Make your own decisions about everything.
Over a 10-year period, with an elite sporting team, I basically expanded their stretching program by 5 minutes a year. And by the end, we were stretching on minimum 40 minutes as an entire team before every single training session, a minimum of 40 minutes. Now that is unheard of in sport. And guess what? When that program, like when I left that program, guess what? They're back to where they were.
What?
Everybody's back to where they were. The best.
Even after they learned.
They were the best team in the world. And they're back to where they were, doing no stretching or doing minimal stretching. Because the powers of commerce far exceed a person's personal experience. 95% of the population are not interested in their experience. They're only interested in conforming to the information that's been released to them.
So you're saying most people who walk around don't necessarily think about their health?
No, they don't. They only think about it when it's such a strong trend that they feel it's okay to do it.
Or they're going to die. Like, someone's like, you're going to die. Or like you said.
Let's take smoking. What year do you reckon someone in the human race worked out smoking a cigarette was probably bad for them?
When a lot of people die.
Okay. And what was the initial response to anyone saying stop smoking, stop smoking? I'm a little bit older. So I remember being in a workplace where I had to smoke passive cigarette smoke in a car, in an office, in a plane. Like when I started flying as a child, there was no smoke, there was no non-smoking areas. The whole plane was smoking.
Smoking, yeah, right. It was the norm.
Yeah. And what chance did a crusader have of saying, I think it's bad for you, I think it's connected to lung disease, can we please, maybe at least have segregation? But I have memories of my father writing into the local owner of the local airline company saying, could he consider giving us some non-smoking sections? Like, yeah, really? That's not going to happen.
Somebody had to think about that.
Yeah, you know what the thought was? If I keep doing this the way I'm doing it, the litigation against me is starting to mount up so much it's becoming unprofitable to do so.
For you?
No, for smoking, tobacco companies.
Okay.
It's not about the interests of the people. The only one that cares about you is you. And if you're not willing to go against dominant paradigms, even quietly, then you become another victim. What about vaccination for children?
Oh,
You want to have that discussion?
no.
You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yes.
It's horrid. Well, if you don't comply to the vaccination protocols, is life comfortable for you? Is there pressures on you to conform to the vaccination?
Yes.
Exactly.
My wife and I are doing that right now with our son because he's in school. His school wouldn't accept him unless he was vaccinated.
Yeah, things like that. And
I'm kind of torn on that whole thing. Because growing up in Africa with malaria and a few other diseases, it's I don't know.
well, it's probably not the day to open up, but what I'm saying is there are many aspects in your life where you have to decide between conformity and what's best for you. And the main thing is you're considering it. It's a valued decision that you'll make on any aspect.
It's not. It's just kind of tough to always be the non-conformist.
Yes. So much fun, is it?
No, it is not fun.
Yeah.
It's not. It only gets fun when everyone realizes how cool it is.
I actually get bored then.
Oh, really? So you get bored and...
Because my attitude is everybody's doing what I'm doing, then I really need to move on. But I live in the frontier. I create the concepts, and I push the boundaries, and I get bored being like everyone else. Because if you know what I know about the masses, the 95%, if you're doing the same thing as 95%, you aren't fulfilling your potential. So I never want to be at that level. But I understand. You've got the people who create the new paradigm, you've got the people who pioneer the new paradigm, and you've got the people who follow. So you're probably in that, you're a pioneer, but you're probably not wanting to be the person out front who's creating it in the first place.
I don't mind doing that. It's just sometimes you kind of need one or two to really understand you.
If
It's lonely being the pioneer.
imagine saying to someone 40 years ago, transcendental meditation is powerful for your workplace. Like 50 years ago, how many corporations would have said, yeah, let's pay for our people to do transcendental meditation, which in essence was what yoga's meant to morphed into. Now health and exercise programs are standard in corporations. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, they even have gyms.
Exactly. It's almost mandated, and it's now being rewarded from a health insurance perspective, all that sort of stuff. Took a long time, didn't it?
It's true, it did.
What are you gonna do? You go back?
Go back to where? I can't go
What
back.
were you doing before?
No, I know too much to go back.
Well, there you go. So roll with it, Tom.
I'm almost terrified to train my clients now. I'm not.
Tommy, you want to turn that off and we're going to wrap on, for that one? So we're going to have at least 45 minutes because I've got to find food. What are the food options? If not 60, we're going to find food.